Hi, welcome to the podcast Vibrant Voices. I'm your host, Charles Aline. Today we have a special guest, Reynaldo Escoto, Mexican filmmaker. In this three-part interview, Reynaldo talks about his career as a professor and a documentary filmmaker. Everyone, welcome to the podcast Vibrant Voices. Today we have a director from Mexico.
My name is Reynaldo Escoto. I'm a filmmaker here in the city of Tijuana, just bordered with the city of San Diego, which is just like the southern border between Mexico and the United States of America. And basically, I like to consider myself as transborder because a lot of my education was in the States. No? I was like a young boy crossing the border region constantly every day in order to receive an education. So for me, like being linked to the migrant context is something that I was born into. So mainly when I started working in film, I started basically in short documentaries regarding obviously migrant perspectives. I always try to approximate myself and the viewers' perspective, like through not like so exploited narratives. So I always like to look around some of like the features that I can find within the themes of migration. So like some of my early short films, for example, there was one that was about the recent caravans that we had like a couple years ago. We had a massive migration flows coming to Tijuana, and they were coming from various parts. People coming from Africa, from Haiti, and a lot of people coming from Central and Southern America. So uh, I made this film that was most focused on the music because in one of these caravans, I approached myself to it because maybe I can talk a little bit more in detail about it later on. But I found out that music was a very important thing for the caravan, and then I started like having like this thought of how important music is for human beings, no? And music is something that moves human beings. So obviously, it was going to be something very important for people migrating from one place to another. So I discovered like in every big massive migration, there was like a theme, like a almost like a national anthem that they would have, no? And they had like this specific song. In my case, there was a song by Los Tigres del Norte, which is called Three Times a Wetback, no? Tres veces mojado, because it's the story of people and migrating from Central America to the United States, and they have to go through three borders, no, in order to get here. So that was very interesting, and those types of approaches to see what other elements are involved in these narratives is something that I really like to explore. Later on, I did other documentaries regarding migration also. One was called A Prayer Beyond Borders, which was co-directed with a director in the United States. And it was about the Christian community and the Muslim community in both sides of the border coming together for a spiritual ceremony in right on the border region, right where the beach is divided by the fence between Tijuana and San Diego, and they were all doing like the spiritual ceremony, uh, advocating for families to stay together and not be separated. And it was very interesting to document that that short because you could literally like feel like the fence bending and melting down, and because you have two communities that have been in wars since the beginning of times, and they were just coming in together very peacefully, and they all were like coinciding in one particular thing, which was the importance of families being together and not separated, no? And then I worked a little bit more into documentary, and always with this thought of myself of trying to reach like the truth, because if we think of audiovisuals, when we think of documentary, it's like you're trying to um, get a perspective closer to the truth, which is something that you might think you cannot find in fiction. But later on, I discovered this filmmaker that's been very influential for me, who's a Polish filmmaker, who's Krzysztof Kieslowski. And Kieslowski, he did maybe more than 30 years, he did documentaries, great documentaries in Poland. And then he was also very, at a certain point, he got very interested not only in social and political issues, but also on the experience of being a human being, like human nature, almost we can say, about values and that. And then I heard him say in one interview that he stopped doing documentaries because he found out that he was getting closer to the truth in fiction. So that for me was really something that was revealed, and then I wanted to go into fiction. So I did some little short films around fiction. I did one that I really like, which is called Viejo, the old man. Um, and there is where I try to explore this concept of using fiction in order to get closer to a truth. And it was something very, very, very interesting. And then later on, I also started working with communities, and I started working with children and youth, and we were creating little short films using a stop motion technique. And there's actually a couple stop motion animations that have participated in festivals in Japan and in Spain and other countries in Latin America. And these are all narratives created with community of children or youth. Um, and then from there, I had the opportunity to work in my first feature, no, a long film, which was something that I've had never done before, even though I've had experiences now for years working on short films. But I was able to work on this project, which is Maestra, Veterinaria, Astronauta, a teacher, veterinarian, astronaut, which is a feature about this young girl coming from Central America to Mexico, where her dream, no, like the concept of the American dream becomes the Mexican dream, which is not to go to Disneyland and to live within this fabric fantasy world, but it is for her to go into school and be able to be in a classroom and have the opportunity to develop herself, hopefully in her adult life as at a certain profession that she would like to develop on, no? And well, that's a little bit or
I
a
mean,
lot about
I mean that
about
was
my
pretty
work.
good,
And
man. I mean, you had a long um, sort of career, and I would love to touch on the documentary part of it, and then we get to, we unpack a lot that you say. Well, let's start about with the documentary, because I know when people do documentaries, they want to shed a light. They want people to like the truth, right? You want to shine a light on the truth, right? And you talked about, migrants coming from, different countries in South America, Central America, and the ultimate destination for the majority of them is to get to America, right? And the thing about the with America, they have this, I think, not a realistic view of the people that's coming here. They think that it's gangs, there's crime, how it's portrayed here on the in the media over here in the United States. And there's this fear, especially when the show like Caravans come in and all these people. But there's stories there. There's like you talk about, there's music there, there's a culture. They're not just some people from the from out of nowhere. There's families, there's ties, there's heartache, there's love, there's everything there. And I think what happens is that the American public miss that. And I think with you talking about, showing the truth and letting that be exposed to the world, what I wanted to know from you is like, do you feel like you accomplished that? Do you feel when you do your documentaries and you show these people as human beings, that's trying to better themselves, do you think you get across that point? And how do you feel that your documentaries is received by the public? And do you think you accomplish what you try to set out to do?
Yes, thank you for stating all that, because actually this short film about the music, which is called Migrant Music, and then it has like a little subtitle which says birds and like bird singing, no? And actually, how I came about for this little short film is that one day I was arriving from work late at night, and then I saw the news, and I saw that there was like a small group of the big caravan that was coming, and it was like a vanguard. Like they would go first and check the area, see if it was safe, and a group of maybe like about 30 migrants had reached Tijuana, and they had reached the place where the beach is, right on the fence, and they had assaulted them. Like people were going there and trying to harm them physically. They were throwing stones at them. They were basically telling them that they didn't want them there, no? So when I saw that reaction in the media, I was like very confronted with certain feelings, like why are people so mad? Why are people so scared? Who are they? Who are these people that have arrived? No, and who are these people that are coming? Why are these people are reacting like this? No, so I had the necessity to go and see it. No, to find out with my own eyes. So I decided, I learned that the next day the whole caravan was coming, and that one of the sites that they were going to be stopping was very close to home, from a park around here. So the next day I grabbed my camera, and my only intention was to do photography, because I also do photography, still photography. And then it was just like a great experience for me, in a sense, because how it was being portrayed is like you're gonna find all these people that are scaring other people and are creating this reaction, uh, created out of fear, no? But then I saw you, I saw me, I saw ordinary people, I saw the whole cycle of life there, newborns, toddlers, teenagers, adults. And also I saw all the emotions that we can have in a lifetime congregated in one moment with all those people. People were fatigued, people were so happy, people were confused, people were nostalgic, people were with a glaze in their eyes as they saw the border fence, no? Um, and I saw humanity, no? And I saw what the human experience is all about, condensed in one specific moment. And so I started documenting, and it was just at a certain point, I heard this person that had a speaker, and then I turned around and I saw this person that had a speaker with a microphone, which was like very interesting for me because the first thought I said is, did she carry that speaker all the way? For thousands of miles, she's been carrying that speaker. So she's not only carrying her belongings, the things that she was able to pull out from her house, from her country, but she's also carrying a speaker. And then I decided to make this one interview because my goal was not to make audiovisual. My goal was just to, in a very personal level, no, to see these people that were coming, And then I did this interview, and I saw, and then sometimes what it happens with us is that we document, and then it just sits there, and then sometimes it's even forgotten. But this time I was stimulated by a film festival, by the San Diego Latino Film Festival, which is like one of the oldest film festivals here in the region. And they had just created a new section of the festival, which was about migration. And so I decided to put together this piece, not knowing really how it would come out. But now, going back to what you were saying about if I was able to portray this truth that we were talking about, because the concept of truth is very sometimes abstract, and it's very broad. At the end of time, I think we all have a little portion of that truth, but what I did think that I was able to portray was that human dignity exists even in the most vulnerable circumstances, and that we all have these emotions, and that we all also have the right to live a life with hope, no? With the hope that we can do better the next day, that if we move, the place that we move to would be a place where we can harvest something that we see. So, and the interesting thing was that I was not looking for music.
Mm.
And I had that encounter. And for me, the part of also this little portion of the truth was to recognize how important music is for human beings. And we all have our own playlist. We all have that one song. We all, even though we don't, some of us don't dance, we all can move our head a little or the feet a little in a certain specific song. So, and then I had all this introspective about how, if music moves the body, how music can move a group of bodies in this infinite dance, looking for a place to establish and live a better life, no?
I totally agree. And one of the things that I like about documentaries, and I sort of started watching documentaries through Michael Moore,
Mm.
who first did Roger and Me about, how they went in and the car industry, how that sort of, really took advantage of the union, and how it sort of brought down the union. And then he went on to do like different things like capitalism, sick, psycho, like he did one called Sick. And what it does, it show like a truth. And you can get like still like watching it on the news where a news section might just have like two 30 seconds or less than that feature, and you don't get the full story. But if you do a documentary based on like the immigrant um, uh, plight, right? You can go into like stuff of why they left the country, the maybe the criminal gangs that's in the country, the economic stress, if you have like four kids and you can't feed them. What's that, what's that's like? And then you have the history. You can go into the history of the country, like, colonial countries took advantage of these countries. And so you have a migrant problem because of, you go back and look at history and see how these countries were taken advantage by
Yes,
Spain, different, European countries, that now they never sort of recover from that.
of course.
And I think a documentary can show that. So my question to you is, now you did it, and you talked about, there was a San Diego film festival that you submit your film to. What was the reaction to the documentary, the short documentary that you did once you entered into that festival?
Yeah, it was very interesting because obviously there was a prize, no? Like every film festival has a prize, and there was like also like a little monetary compensation if you would win. Maybe it was like $5,000 or something like that.
Mm.
So I said, well, maybe I can get a new camera, no? Uh, but I didn't win the prize, but I want something greater. And that greater thing was that in the audience, there was these two people that were there because they wanted to make a documentary and they were looking for a director. And once they saw the film and we had the feedback of the question and answers, when everybody was leaving, they both approached me and they said, "You were the one about the music. About the migration and music, no?" I was, yeah. And they said, we have an idea of a project and we want you to get involved. And for me, it was just beautiful because at the end, we as filmmakers, uh, more than prices, we're always looking how we're going to get involved financially in our next project, no? So that was just great. And that's how I got to this other project that I told you, which was Prayer Beyond Borders, about the communities, the different communities, religious communities coming together in order to um, appeal for families to stay together and not being separated. No? So that was one of the outcomes of that screening.
Okay, cool. I mean, that's good. That's the power of film festivals, and which is really cool. Like a lot of people, you submit your film, sometimes you don't get what you're looking for, but sometimes you do get something much better, right? You didn't get a prize, but you get somebody who actually loved your work and wanted to work with you. They saw the creativity and the passion that you could present in your work, and they wanted to work with you. And stuff like that could happen to filmmakers if they're into their projects. Don't have a film sitting on the shelf where no one can see it. Just send it out there, enter into festivals, and something beautiful might happen. Like, you can have a story and you come on my podcast, like you just said, and,
Yes,
and
of
talk
course.
about your experience, which is really cool. But let's go back to something when we started. You said that you got your education here in the United States. Did you study film? And did you study film at a specific university in San Diego?
No, I did a little bit of community college in San Diego, and I was more focused on, like I was actually studying Latin American studies.
Mm,
Um, and on the creative part, I was also taking a lot of art classes. Um, some about film appreciation, but not really studying film.
mhm.
And it's when I go back to Mexico to study university. I went to Guadalajara. Um, I stayed there for a couple of years, but I was still studying history, and my focus was history, Latin American history. Um, and and then when I come back to Mexico, I mean to Tijuana, sorry, I started focusing more on the audiovisual part that I was getting interested in, and I was studying communications, no, not film, because film in Tijuana, it's a very young city, a little bit more over 130 years. And like having the career of cinematography in universities is something kind of new. I mean, maybe around 10 years is a lot, and now we have like three universities that have the cinematography career, or some have something that fusions like communication and film and like that, no? Mhm.
Okay, so when did you decided to pick when did you decide to pick up the camera and start shooting something? What made you get to that point?
Yeah, I mean a lot of the work um like like a lot of the money that I was making to make a living was through hard work, not like any other worker doing their hard work, you know. But then I had an accident in the workplace where I couldn't do that type of work anymore. No, I hurt my back, so I knew that I had to make a change in my lifestyle. And then I mean, I've been a film lover since a kid, you know. When I was 12 years old, my parents had to talk with the local movie rental uh, to let them make me my own like a personal credential, because they were so tired of coming almost every day to pick up a film, a VHS, no? So I was very into film since an early age. Um, but at this point, I remember I was watching a film, and it was City of God, no? And then I started noticing the lightning. I started noticing like more technical aspects, no, the camera movements, and and then I was like, I think I can make something, you know. And then another film that really revealed to me more like in a narrative way, also the color and all that was Amores Perros, no, which is by Iñárritu. I don't really know how the translation goes, but it's a very well Mexican film, well-known Mexican film. Um, and those two films are, I think, the ones that push me into the filmmaking. And if we think of those two narratives, they talked about common people, about common people, maybe in certain situations, maybe sometimes at the edge, sometimes uh, not really like them putting themselves in the edge, but the context is the edge, no? The city itself is the edge, no? So I was very interesting on the social part of it, no? And and I think, I mean, film has a lot of like textures and matices, like of what it's conformed of, because it's not only like the technical aspect, or not even the narrative aspect, but the the existence of film itself. I mean, like if we go back into history, like I always like to go back to Alice Guy Blaché, which is this French filmmaker. That she's, I mean, a lot of people don't talk about her, but basically she created like uh, the language of cinematography. You know, she was the first that was using like close-ups, medium shots, when everyone else in the early 1900s was still doing just wide shot, like if it was in the theater, no? But she also was like the first to started talking about social issues and social justice, no? She has this short film which is called The Consequences of Feminism. I think it's 1906. And not only like her talking about a certain social issue or about equal rights, but it was also a time where she found out that we can work empathy within film. And I think that was a great discovery. And I think it's one of the reasons why I make films, because uh, in this sense, it's one way to put ourselves in the shoes of the other, no? regardless of gender, regardless of citizenship, regardless of any condition that the character could have. And I think it's something that for me it's very, very important. No?
Would you say that French, I can't remember her name that you just pronounced. Would you say that she was the most sort of the greatest influence on you for becoming like a director? Do you want to like sort of emulate her style of shooting or her approach
No,
to storytelling?
yeah, no, not really. I was just como like try to state like the complexity of of a film or the concept of film, which is not just entertainment. No, it has a lot of textures and matices. But I think she made me discover uh, the importance of film as a medium of also creating empathy, not just entertainment. Not It's not something that it's separated from. I mean, you can be entertained and also work empathy. Maybe that's the the best way to do it. uh, but it was just that part, that concept. But in question of style and that, no, she was doing more like fairy tales and it was just the beginning of cinema. No, it was like these filmmakers like Alex Guy Blaché, Georges Méliès, Segundo de Chomon. They were very like creating the basis of what we know as film today. No? But a lot of these ingredients were because of her, and not a lot of people know of this filmmaker. No?
Cool, cool. Would you say that you have a modern day filmmaker that you love and you say, oh wow, I just love that person's style and their approach to storytelling, their approach to camera movement um, as a filmmaker? Do you have any one modern day filmmaker that you can look to and say, I really love their style?
I have many. I have many, so many. And it's interesting you're talking about this because I actually come from, because I'm also a teacher at the university. And today I had a class about director, no? Being a film director. It's called, they have like three-part director.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Please follow, subscribe to catch part 2 and part 3 of this podcast. This podcast has been brought to you by All Vision Caribbean and Latino Film Festival 2026 edition, which is now accepting submissions. Go to Film Freeway to submit your films. Thank you.